So the way that it works, if you want to get in, this is what we do with this program. We first start off with an application. You'll fill out an application, and after that you do the payment. And what we have going on right now is this is our early bird special for the program. And questions I get on Accelerator, the Career Accelerator program, is what is this going to help me do? How is this going to help me leverage the results that I want to really capture and make that impression in the interview that's going to get me that job? So this is what this program is all about. There's 3 different programs in Accelerator, and you can talk to your onboarding specialist about which program you qualify for when they give you a call after you go through the application. But this is an early bird special. We recently opened this up to applications, and a couple weekends ago when we did that, we had 400 people apply in one weekend. And I just said, whoa, stop. We can't take this many people into Career Accelerator right now. And the reason that we don't want that many people coming into this is because we want to make sure that a certain number of people go through this. We can monitor how smoothly they're going through this, make sure that they're learning all of the foundational skills to make that click in their interview to get the result that we want them to get, which is to get the job. So we're not looking to spend a lot of time sending thousands upon thousands of people through this. We really want people to get the quality attention that they deserve to really learn the hallmarks of what companies are looking for in the interview process. So to jump into this a little bit, and if you're just tuning in right now, I would encourage you to get a notepad, get to a quiet place. You want to definitely take some notes on this. This is kind of the foundational framework behind Accelerator, and this is one of the most in-depth programs that we do here at Hired&Co. So if you're wondering about the other programs that we do and how this relates to that, I sat down with my staff and I basically said, listen, what it comes down to is that there's so much emphasis put into the interview process. There's so much weight that carries when you go in and you speak with a company. You can maybe not perform at your 100% best when you're talking to a recruiter on the phone or during an initial call with a hiring manager after that. You got to do still pretty good with that hiring manager. But when you get into the interview, you really need to be firing on all 8 cylinders. And just to go through the hiring funnel here, in terms of if you're wondering what I'm talking about here, typically you're going to start off applying to a position on your laptop, right? That's going to lead to a phone call, and this is my illustration of a phone here. And obviously that's not the best phone, so you'll have to humor me and sympathize with my writing skills. And you're on a phone call with the recruiter. That'll then go to another phone call. I'll draw a cell phone this time. See if I can do better with that. With the recruiter who's sitting at their chair, at their desk. You'll be talking to them on the phone. If that works out, you go to an in-person interview with that hiring manager, right? After that, you might get called in again to do a second in-person interview, okay? Depending on the company, it could take as much as 3 different in-person interviews. That's really a stretch. Most just do 1 or 2. And then finally, what happens is if you do great in all of these rounds, they'll give you the offer, which is right here. So what happens is most of the weight in terms of the most significant part of these interactions, 70% of the emphasis is really right here in your first in-person interview with a hiring manager. This is really important. They're sitting there looking at you face to face. They want to see your presentation, how you dress yourself, how you shake hands, how you introduce yourself by name as you're shaking hands. And here's the thing. There's a lot of emphasis here too, and that's why I don't give this more than 70%. you're going to be spending a lot of energy just applying to positions to open up this doorway with the recruiter. But once you get through that initial stage, and I put about 15 to 20, even 25% of the emphasis right here, because you've got to get that momentum. You got to start getting those phone calls coming in to even get here or here. But once you do, it's all about what you do right here with the hiring manager. That's going to really depend on whether you get the offer or not. And we want people to do extraordinarily well here. And that is why we at Hired & Company have spent a lot of time just putting together the Career Accelerator course. And if you're wondering what we're going to be talking about in Career Accelerator, we go through the strategy, and I'm just going to go back to my notes here. We do an experience and strengths assessment. That's the first thing that we do. We do the goal development. We get you your career clarity. We want to make sure that you're not going off into one sector of the job marketplace where there's just one or two positions open. I throw out the story of somebody saying, "Oh, I want to go become an astronaut," and there's only one company out there that hires astronauts, and that's it's not SpaceX. They're not even hiring astronauts right now. It's NASA, and they're not even sending anybody to the moon. So if you're going out and if you're going out and applying, you want to make sure that there is a lot of positions out there for whatever you're targeting. Whether it's an e-commerce director, whether it's mechanical engineer, chemical engineer, accountant, you want to make sure that there's a lot of positions out there for you to apply to, and that's why we do that clarity. And then we'll go into the interview mastery. That's the second program that we do. And then the third is closing the deal, and that's really how to separate yourself from everybody else that's applying, demonstrating leadership and confidence, how to handle next steps, and turning interviews into offers. Because ultimately, if you're not turning your interviews into offers, you're just burning a ton of fuel and you're never even getting into orbit. So that's what this is all about. This is what applying to companies and your career search is all about, is to get the offer. And that's what we go through in this program. And just to touch in on the interview process, I'm going to go through what I call the top three reasons that people don't get hired, and it's based on what they do in the interview process. And let me just write this out. Here we go. So these are the top three reasons people don't make it through the interview, and three reasons why people lose it during the interview. And the first is really people don't know how to articulate themselves. So this is one of the big things. People sit down and they're getting hit with questions, and they just can't articulate themselves. They don't know what to say in response. They're fumbling over their words. It's one of those things where people just don't know how to respond to what's being asked of them. They're sitting there. It's a high pressure situation where they're needing to perform on the drop of a dime, and they just can't do it. Typically, this happens because of lack of preparation, and that's really the whole premise behind Career Accelerator, is to make sure that you're doing the right preparation before you ever go into an interview, so that you start really hitting the ball out of the park. And so the second reason people lose it during the interview is a lack of preparation. If I can spell. Lack of preparation. So people who are saying to themselves, "Oh, well, I can just go apply to positions and set up an interview, and then when they get to the interview, I'm just going to prepare one night before, and I'll do 3 hours, or I'll do 2 hours." And I've heard a lot of people doing this, and it usually doesn't end up well for them. So this is the second reason why most people lose it during the interview. It's a lack of preparation. And the third reason that people just lose it during the interview is because they're nervous. It's nerves. They just can't handle it. A lot of people don't interview that much. And you can look at somebody, in the news networks like Matt Lauer or Katie Couric, Megyn Kelly. There's a lot of people on the Today Show who do interviews for a living, and they just are up there and they're not fazed by it. It's just a part of their life. They're up there on TV all the time. They can handle it. Other people would consider those high pressure situations, but they've learned to adapt themselves to it and get very comfortable in it. And so that's what we're going to help you to do, is get very, very, very comfortable with going through this so that you can sit there and have a cool and collected and well-prepared conversation with anyone who you want to go sit down and interview with. So these are the top 3 reasons why most people lose it during the interview. They don't know what they don't know how to articulate themselves. They lack preparation, or they just can't calm down their nerves. We've got a lot of tips on just how to control your nerves during an interview if that is an issue for you. We go into a number of different things. We've got a couple different strategies, a couple different technologies that you can really utilize to calm yourself down and effectively communicate with somebody. And I think if that is one thing that you need help with, that'll be addressed in this program. We'll get that handled for you immediately. So you can feel very comfortable and confident that in this program we'll address that. Now, one of the things that is really important to me in this is just pointing out that there are certain things that you have to do during the interview with a hiring manager in order to get an offer. If you're not touching on certain subjects, then you're not going to get the interview. And by that, there's certain phrases that you can inject into your conversations, and salt and pepper. And there's certain things that you can say at the end, particularly when it's time for you to ask questions. And when you're getting ready to leave, to close up, that make you stand out as the candidate of choice. A lot of people go into an interview and they're just, they're going to get a good idea of what they're going to say, and then they're going to go in and they're just going to kind of wing it. We see too many people just trying to wing it out there, and it's not effective. You really have to know what you're doing and do your planning very carefully. This is almost like military operations. You see Navy SEALs before they go on a mission overseas. Everything is really clearly laid out for them. They have a mission objective. They have a goal. They have all of these tools and resources that they bring with them. And then they go over there and they've got all their equipment with them, and they've got a plan on how they're going to work the entire mission. Too many people go into interviews and they just don't have a plan. And I want to tell you one thing that is really important, and that is this, is that if you go into an interview like this, you're going to be facing a rude awakening, because I'll write this up here so you can see it. And here we go. Okay. And that is this. When you go into any interview, the interviewers have a well-defined plan on what they're going to be doing with you, what they're going to be asking you, what they're going to be taking you through. So they've got a very, very clear plan around this. And if you show up without a plan, you're going to fall into their plan, and it's going to mean that they're going to eject you out. This whole interview process is a weeding out of anybody who they're not looking for. So they're going to be asking you questions just so that you mess up, just so that they can weed you out of the process. That's what this whole system is designed to do. It's designed to let the best in and separate the rest out. So interviewers have a very clear plan. They've got their questions. They've got the room set up that you're going to go into. They've got a clear idea of all of the other candidates that are coming in. They've got their time set up. They've got their goals. They have an idea in mind of who they want to hire and the reasons why for this position, and what they're going to have the person who they select, what that person's going to do in the position once they're in the position and they've accepted the offer. So everything is very well planned out by the company. If you're walking in without a plan, you're just going to get caught up in this tornado that they've designed, and it's going to spit you right out, and you're going to end up wondering, well, what just happened? And I will say this, the reason that we've designed this is to prevent this from happening, because ultimately, if you go all the way through and get to the end of an interview process, and I can just go back here for a second, and you end up going through the whole hiring funnel with a company. It's a great company. Let's say it's a Fortune 100 company, and you spent all of the energy going through this to get to say right here, and you don't get that offer. I will tell you one thing. It is very, very frustrating. It can be deflating. I know it blows sometimes a blow to people's confidence, because most people get into that position and they're like, I'm so close, I'm probably going to get the position. They start telling their friends about it, and so on and so forth. They start getting emotionally wrapped up in it. And if you don't get it, it can be a really big disappointment. I don't want to see that happen to anybody, and that's kind of why we've designed this. So you want to have a very clear plan going into this to match their plan. And when you have a plan and you're coming up to the offensive line, to their plan, you're going to feel confident. You're going to feel very confident. And that's where confidence stems from, is from adequate preparation. Okay? Now, a lot of people ask me, well, Steve, what types of questions am I going to be facing when I get in there? You're going to be facing quite a number of questions. The first question is typically, tell me about yourself. That is the number one question that any company is going to ask to start with. You need to prepare for that question. You need to be able to answer that effectively. And a lot of people too, they'll ask me, how long should I go and talk about any one question? How long should my answer take? Should I limit my time? You don't want to go with a run-on 5-minute answer to a 2-minute question. That is one of the biggest things. If you've been in our Fortune 100 program, where we sat down with Fortune 100 hiring managers, directors, vice presidents, the number one thing they said is they don't want to hear a 5-minute, 6-minute answer. I mean, people's attention spans, they just don't go that long. So you've got about maybe 1 to 2 minutes to answer the question. Tell me about yourself. I usually like to keep that more quick. And that's got to be really carefully done as well. When they ask you, tell me about yourself, you don't want to start saying, well, I'm a big Yankees fan. What if that person is a Boston Red Sox fan who you're talking to? You don't know. So you really have to organize these questions really well. And the second thing, just to bridge off of this, is you want to have data that you're bringing with you to that offensive line when you're going in to do your interview. You don't want to just show up with your resume. If you just show up with your resume, please call us. If you're just showing up to your interview with just a resume, at the least you should be taking notes throughout the entire interview process, and that way you can stay well organized with what they're saying. I shouldn't even be saying this in our introduction video, but you want to be asking them what the first 30 to 60 days are going to look like in the position, and you want to write that down. You want to be writing these notes down in the interview, because if you don't write that down and you don't remember what the first 30 to 60 days they're expecting you to do, you're going to look a little foolish if they do give you the offer and you say, well, what am I supposed to do in the first 30 to 60 days? So that's some free content right there. But you want to bring in some data with you. And by that, I had a student recently go into Nestle Purina. It's one of the top Fortune 100 best companies to work for. They've been on the list consecutively 2015, 2014, 2013, 2017. I think they were in there last year as well. And the amazing thing is that the recruiters will actually let you bring in materials with you, and they will let you take notes as long as you ask them. So that's one of the other things too, is reach out and ask the recruiter, hey, what questions do you think would be best to prepare for? You can do that. And I would only ask that if they've already kind of provided you with some information as far as the interview goes. For example, Amazon will give you a lot of materials before an interview. They give you the way that works is they'll give you about 3 or 4 different PDFs. On it will be Amazon's 14 cultural values. There's some other PDFs that they put on there just so you know what they want you to bring up during the interview and what they want you to speak to. So those are some of the things that you can do. If the recruiter is not that forthcoming, do not ask what questions are coming your way. But recruiters can generally, my point is this, recruiters can be your best friend. They can supply you with materials. The gal at Nestle said, hey, listen, here's a couple questions that they're definitely going to be asking you. And the student was able to prepare for that, and he did a wonderful job. I think he went in their last week. He's going back for, I think, a second interview, and I mean, you just got to prepare. So the other thing too is if you do prepare, this preparation also goes not just for in-person interviews, but for phone interviews too. You want to be piping hot when you get on a phone call with a recruiter. And by that I mean you don't want to pick up the phone in the morning and you've never even had a conversation yet for the day and just start and, hey, how are you? And you're just motoring up to speed. Have a couple conversations before you even talk to that recruiter on the phone. Or before you go into your in-person interview, you need to warm up your voice, you need to warm up your mind, and you need to get your energy levels up. And that is one of the crucial things. Most people, oh, I've got a 9 a.m. interview. All right, let me get going, let me get my coffee, and they get there and they're still waking up. They haven't warmed up their voice, they haven't warmed up their body, they haven't even exercised in the morning. So these are just a couple simple things that you can do, but you really need to hit on all 8 cylinders for these interviews. Now, want to talk about this, and it's kind of the central theme. The central theme here is that and I'm kind of writing a little sloppy here. Too many people are unprepared for these interviews, and if that's you, this is not your fault, because who I really blame this on is a lot of the colleges across the country. These career centers, they call them career centers. They couldn't be further from the truth. Especially back when I was in college, I mean, people were just starting to get internships at colleges, and I'd say about maybe 5% were getting internships in their sophomore years, which I think is great now that people are getting those internships in their sophomore year. But what's happening is college career centers are just not preparing people how to interview. They don't do mock interviews. They don't give people enough resume help. Now, some colleges do, and if that's your college and they did give you a lot of help, that's great. If your college didn't, you're with the majority. And so people just don't know how to interview. They don't know how to respond to these questions. And that's really what it comes down to. And so what I will say is this: if this applies to you and you just don't know how to interview and you don't know how to get the offers from companies, you're not alone, and it's not your fault. But I will say it is your fault if you don't take action to get this handled. And one of the biggest things that you can do to get this handled is by getting knowledge. We sat down with Fortune 100 companies and we've asked them, this has been an ongoing thing that we've been doing for a number of years. And what we do is we sit down and we say, listen, what do you want people to say when it comes to this question? What do you want to hear when you're asking somebody, tell me about yourself? What do you want to hear when somebody says this, what is your greatest weakness? When you ask that, what do you want someone to say to that? How do you want them to answer that? And we ask them, what are the most common mistakes people make during the interviews? What are the most amazing things that you've heard during the interviews? These are Fortune 100 hiring decision makers that we constantly travel and go see and sit down with, whether it's Anheuser-Busch or Boeing or your Googles and Facebooks of the world. And I mean, we could throw out a couple more names: Energizer, PricewaterhouseCoopers, Express Scripts. And we'll sit down with them and we'll just, have real candid conversations about what they're looking for. And I think that's the key. And we've gotten private knowledge, and that's what helps people. And we've also sat down and talked to these same people, and we've asked, what did you do specifically during these interviews that got you the position at the company? And the common denominator with most people who get into these companies is knowledge. They definitely know how to interview, right? And typically in the beginning, maybe 50% of the people, to get their foot in the door, they know somebody at the company. And you don't have to know somebody at the company. It's not one of those things that's a deal breaker. If you got a great resume will eventually get you into a good company. So, but they know how to interview. That's the common denominator with anybody who's getting into a great company, is they know how to interview. If you don't know how to interview, that's really what it's going to come down to, because even people who really aren't that great with, going through the whole hiring funnel, applying to companies, they'll eventually get a phone call or two with the hiring manager or recruiter, and that'll kind of start the process. They'll be able to get into at least an in-person interview. But if they don't know how to interview, they're just going to quickly be shuffled out. So you got to know how to interview, and you have to go in there with confidence. So those are some of the most important things. And I'm just going to read my notes here. I have so many notes on this. And what do I want to share with you next? A lot of people will ask me what kind of questions to expect during the interview. So that's valid, because there's hundreds upon hundreds upon hundreds of questions out there, but they're all versions of the same questions over and over again. So there's really about 10 to 20 questions that really encompass the interview and what's in terms of what's going to be coming at you. The first one is always going to be, tell me about yourself. Second is walk me through your resume. Now, I've had candidates who I've coached one-on-one, and if you're wondering, we charge about $15,000 for one-on-one coaching. It's for 3 hours. And what I've done is, I just don't have the time to do this anymore. So we've designed Career Accelerator to do the same thing that I do. I don't do it in person, obviously, but we've made that whole program based off the one-on-one consulting that I do. The second question that people are going to say, and this could actually be the first question, and that is, walk me through your resume. And I know for a fact there's a number of companies, and I could name them, but there's just not enough time, is that as soon as you get on the phone with a recruiter or hiring manager, they're going to say, hi, thank you for calling, or thank you for interviewing us and for your time and your interest in Bed Bath & Beyond. My name is Carol, blah, blah, blah. Okay, what I want you to do, we're just going to start this, walk me through your resume. And that's all they're going to say. And that's one of the ways where they keep it super short, and they put all the weight on you to answer that question from the very beginning. And that could even be not just in the beginning phone call with the recruiter. That's generally how some hiring managers try to do it on the phone, and they want to ice you. That's what I call it. They'll ice you like that. And they're not going to be super jolly and friendly on the phone. They're just going to say, hi, appreciate your time here at Bed Bath & Beyond, or Delta Airlines, Virgin Airlines, whoever the company may be. And I'm not saying that all of these companies do that, but there's some tough hiring managers out there, and they'll just say, thanks for calling on the phone, or you'll get there in person, and they'll ice you like that. They'll just say, thank you for being here. We need to get into it because our time is limited. Just walk me through your resume. You can start wherever you feel most comfortable, and you can either start at the top or the bottom, but I need you to go through every position and go through what you did there specifically. And depending if you're ready for that, some people are and some people aren't. But you should be ready for that type of question, to just jump right into it. And you got to devour these questions. I mean, you need to be fully committed when you go into these interviews to attack these things, and not seem like you're in that kind of attacking demeanor, but you need to attack these questions in a friendly demeanor. But these are some of the things that you need to be ready for. What makes you better than other candidates? Where do you see yourself in 5 years? I wish I had $1 for every time I heard that. Why are you leaving, or why did you leave your current job? This is always, you get that. Why are you leaving? Why are you looking for new opportunities? And that's a tricky one for somebody, especially for people who don't prepare. I get a lot of people who just don't know what they're doing, and they'll say, oh, I really don't like where I work, and they'll start bad-mouthing their boss, or I don't really like the company. That is never the right answer. If you're out there doing that, just don't do that. If anything, you just want to praise the last company that you were at, make it seem like you're putting them in a positive light. You wouldn't be a person who's expressing gratitude, not complaining. And nobody likes a complainer, so if you are doing that, I would encourage you and suggest that you don't do that anymore. And we go into a little bit more of that in Career Accelerator, but I think a lot of people watching this probably already know that. What is your biggest weakness? There's a right and there's a wrong way to answer that question. If you're saying, well, I'm really just terrible on the phone, and you're going into a position that is very sales oriented. I mean, you never want to really admit to a big weakness unless you have a very good answer on how to explain that away. What do you do during your free time? Why don't you give me your understanding of the position and how your experience lines up? Why this job? Why our company? I mean, one of the things that is going to be coming through very clearly, and this is why we go into mindset in the very beginning videos, is because people are going to know why you're there to interview for the position. They're going to know if you're a raving fan of their company, or whether you're just going through the motions of wanting to work there to get a salary. And people just don't want that. They don't want someone just coming in to get a paycheck. Even if you are a big performance driver, they want to know that you have some passion for their company. That's really the bottom line. There's ways to exude this, and there's ways to, if you're not really passionate about the company, I would almost say don't even apply to it. And sometimes, once you do apply to a company, you can do some more research, and there's things to become passionate about, and you can kind of stir that up inside yourself. And I didn't even know this about this company. Wow, this is a remarkable culture, and you can bring your dogs to work. They're doing all of these wonderful things with the community. There's a charity that they donate to and that they actively go out to 2 times a month and help Habitat for Humanity, XYZ. I love to give. And so a lot of this that we deal with when it comes to Career Accelerator is strategy, and it is tips and tools and things that you can say, and some of the phrases that you can drop. And we teach you how to answer these questions based on your personality and based on your experience. But it also has to do with becoming somebody who's worth hiring. And I say that because some people out there, they just want to go in and they want to collect a paycheck. And nobody out there right now is looking for somebody like that. They want someone who's going to bring value, who's going to be an asset to their culture, who's going to be involved in the teams and a contributor. If you're not that type of person, you've got work to do outside of this program. And this program might not be for you. We're not looking to bring so many people into this program. That's not the goal of this. I want people to come in. I want them to learn these foundational strategies to mastering the interview process, and I want to see them get out and graduate with a job. And that's the whole reason that we've designed this. And we don't want herds and herds of masses of people coming through, because I don't want all over the world having this knowledge. Otherwise, the course wouldn't be as valuable as it is. So if you're just wanting to go in and get a job and collect a paycheck and not contribute to the company, I don't think this is a lot of people out there, but this is some of the people that we get, especially younger people. I just want to get my foot in the door, and I just want to get a salary, and there's a high level of entitlement. You're going to have work to do outside this company, and that's probably an issue you're going to have to handle before you can, even utilize what we're talking about here. Because people are hiring personalities just as much as they are people who are experienced. And I would say personality is one of the most important things to people making the hiring decisions. It really is. And And I say that because let's just think for a second, if you're a hiring manager out there and you're with two other directors at your company and you work for Ernst & Young or PricewaterhouseCoopers or Citigroup, and somebody comes in and the first thing that they're going to notice upon shaking your hand and your dress and how you're dressed is your personality. It starts coming through immediately. And people hire personalities and they want to know that you're going to be a good person for them to work with every day. And so this is one of the foundational things I go through in mindset and clarity when you get into Accelerator. And the mindset is very important, is everything that you're exuding as you're sitting in that chair saying, I'm a great person to work with. I'm going to be a great person to work with on your team. I'm going to provide value. And people would rather hire, I will tell you that people would rather hire somebody who's easy to work with, great to work with, as opposed to a rock star who is amazing at producing results, who's, this tremendous achiever, super creative. If you're not easy to work with and get along with, I mean, personality, if I can write here, personality is more important to a lot of companies and I don't mean you have to be funny and witty and all these types of things. It's just, are you exuding that type of behavior and how you're conducting yourself in terms of someone who's easy to get along with, easy to work with, a team player, who's got a positive attitude. These are some of the things. So I just wanted to touch base on that. Or is this person way over the top, way aggressive, very in your face? If you're like that, it's going to be tough. You have to know how to work with people. And, I think there's a saying out there that is carry an iron fist inside a velvet glove. And if you're very strong, that's great, but you need to be friendly and know how to work with people. So that is really a lot of what we do in Accelerator. It's really, this is just kind of skimming the top. And I will say, again, knowledge is the key to you getting any position. It's knowledge about that company. It's knowledge on how to answer the questions. It's knowing those interview questions before you walk in there and having a total blueprint of how you're going to go about mastering all the questions that are thrown at you. And if you can do that, you're going to be well prepared to go into an interview and you should be feeling amazingly confident. Now, I like to talk about this right here. And you may have heard me talk about this in our other videos. And that is 70% of CEOs have coaches, okay? Now, what does that mean? 70% of CEOs have coaches. CEOs are paying to have coaches coach them throughout their careers. And the statistic is outside coaches. They don't have a coach in there at the company who's sitting a couple doors down and saying, hey, well, you should do this now and do this here and do this there. It's outside coaches that help CEOs, and they pay these coaches to help them accelerate their career. And they're not just using coaches at the CEO level. These are typically habits these CEOs have used, in lower positions, whether they were a VP, a director, an executive VP. So this is a practice that they adopt early on in their career. And the reason is because as a person, you only have so much perspective. You can see only so far. There's blind spots that you have. There's knowledge that you're not going to have. And CEOs are ready and willing to admit that. They know that they don't know everything. So that is why they use coaches. And CEOs, they don't just use coaches, but they go to seminars, they enroll in programs, they go to conferences, and they're constantly getting feedback and they're getting help in areas where they don't know how to do something. And I say that to say this. If you don't know something, if you don't know how to interview, if you don't know how to close offers with companies when you're interviewing, then you need to get that help. You know, who better to model than the best people, and this is Fortune 100 companies, excuse me, Fortune 500 companies. 70% of the CEOs in Fortune 500 companies have coaches. And in addition to that, they're going to seminars, they're going to conferences, they're buying books. Trying to remember, the average CEO, I think, reads 70 books a year, 70 to 100 books a year. So they're constantly investing in knowledge. Now, depending on where you are on your interview knowledge scale, so let's just say for a minute, starting at 0 and going all the way to 100, 100 being the absolute best interview skills that you could have. Typically we see people right over here at about 20%. Okay? They're at 20%. To get the job, you're going to need to be at least 78% on your skill level to get the offer. This is really right here this is what I call offer territory. That's where you're going to start receiving an offer from a company. If you're operating in here, which is where most people who aren't getting offers are vacillating in between. I mean, even if you're up here, you might be able to get an offer. And you're going to have to do a self-assessment, right now, just watching this video. Where are you at? Be honest with yourself. If you're around this area of the scale, you're going to need to get some help. And there's CEOs out there who aren't getting help. A good friend of mine, he's the CEO of a publicly traded furniture company, and his company was almost taken off the NASDAQ because the company's not operating the way it should be. Let's just say that. It's not producing the financial results. He doesn't have a coach. He clearly doesn't. I know that he doesn't. He's not getting the help that he should be. And his results are speaking. And the company, I don't know what's going to happen to the company. He knows more than I do. I haven't talked to him in about a month or two, but he's operating at his company with limited knowledge. And the NASDAQ stock exchange just told him, hey, listen, we're not going to let your company be on the exchange anymore because the value of your stock has dropped below the threshold of what we allow to be on our NASDAQ exchange. It's got to be at least this dollar figure to still be on the exchange. Luckily, they got the per share value above what that threshold was, but he's not getting the help that he needs. He's not having a coach talk to him about the employees that they need to have there and the processes that they need to be improving, the products that they need to be introducing. And so he's lacking knowledge and he's not getting the result that he wants. Another story I could share with you is Elon Musk with Tesla Motors. Tesla Motors is, of course, the largest electric car manufacturer in the world right now. They have 540,000 automobiles on roads all throughout the world. Now, they are getting ready to go into mass production of their vehicles with their Model 3. They want to get a $35,000 electrical self-driving car for families and people all across the United States and the rest of the world. They recently came out, and so let's say they're operating at about 70 to 100% right now in terms of their knowledge on electric vehicles. But when it comes to mass producing them and making millions of them, their knowledge is around like a 20% at Tesla. And they said that recently, like, we do not know how to mass produce millions and millions of electrical vehicles like Toyota or Ford. And so what they did is they went out and they got more knowledge. They said, we are lacking knowledge in this area of mass production of vehicles. We need to get knowledge. They went out and bought an entire engineering group in Germany, the vehicle manufacturing capital of the world. It's where BMW is made, Mercedes is made, Volkswagen, some of the biggest automakers, and they bought an engineering group out there to help them to mass produce vehicles. So they went from about 20%, 30% knowledge in mass producing vehicles, which is not that much, and they're probably at about an 83% now that they bought this group. They said, whoa, these people are the ones who know how to do what we want to do and that we're trying to do. Let's go out there, let's get that knowledge. They now have that knowledge. And with the human resources that they've acquired, they're now about right here. So my point is just this. If you don't have the knowledge to interview effectively, to get offers from company, this is an area where you're lacking. You need to invest in some type of knowledge. And I'm not saying that you should do it with us. We've got a great program, and I'm not saying, we're the right fit for everybody, because that just wouldn't be true. But I think this is one of the best programs out there, and we've got some of the best knowledge that can get you the offer. So if you're not going to do anything, you're going to continue to get the same results that you've gotten. And one thing that always rings true is this. If you're not getting the results that you want, you need to do one thing. You need to change your approach. You need to change what you're doing. You're going to have to get more knowledge. If you're operating with limited knowledge and limited strategies, you're going to have to change. Because ultimately, you keep doing what you did over and over and over again. I think Einstein said that doing the same thing over and over and over again and expecting a different result is insanity. It's a definition of insanity. So you're going to have to change. And what we've done at Hired & Company to help people is we've compiled mass amounts of knowledge. So we're not just talking about reading books, and we're not just talking about all the people that we talk to at Fortune 100 companies and Fortune 500 companies. We've talked to so many people. It's almost exhausting in a sense, the number of people that we've talked to. And I'm a very big believer in modeling success. If I'm talking to somebody who worked at Boeing, I'm saying, hey, what did you do to get in here? How did you get into the company? What did you do with your resume? How did you get to the interview? What did they ask you during the interview? How did you prepare for your questions? What questions did they ask you? How did you solicit the offer? And these are all of the things that I ask every person who I get together with. And so we've, over the years, have compiled mass amounts of knowledge on how to get you into the company that you want to get into. And I'm not guaranteeing to anybody. If anyone ever guarantees you, I guarantee you that you're going to get this particular job. I can't do that. But what I will say is this is one of the best resources because we've compiled such great resources, great feedback, and truthfully, we've done this. We still apply to companies, our staff, because we're testing resumes, we're testing our cover letters, we're testing our LinkedIn profiles that we're creating, and we're also going into these companies and we're speaking with recruiters on the phone covertly, and we want to find out what they're saying, what they're looking for, and we continue to test our processes like that. Now you may say, oh, well, that's kind of controversial. Yeah, it is. And that's how far we're willing to go to push the limits, to get the knowledge that you need to be successful. And I'll just contrast that with going to a store right now. You can buy a number of books. There's so many different interview books, and do this. Check it out. You'll go into a bookstore like Barnes & Noble, and you can go pick up a book on the shelf. It was written back in 2005. And I will say, how much relevant information is that book going to give you? LinkedIn wasn't even, I think LinkedIn was just being birthed at that time. So the book probably doesn't even talk about LinkedIn, which is now the #1 way to apply in the world. So you're getting outdated information. And if you look at the author of that particular book and see where they used to work or what their experience is. More than likely that book that you picked up is going to be tremendously outdated. You might get a little bit of information if they talk about, interviewing techniques and things like that. But more than likely, the book is going to be largely outdated. And if it was written by a person who's just an author who has very limited experience, you could be totally wasting your time getting unraveled in something that's not even going to help you. Books, there's a lot of, anyone can be an author. Let me just finish with that. So what you want to do is you want to connect with valuable knowledge. And our programs have gotten people into Amazon, Nestle Purina, Energizer, Coca-Cola. One of my favorite all-time stories is I think what was it on? I think it was through the resume program that one of our girls that we were helping recently, she applied to Coca-Cola and she got a call the very next morning, and she was interviewing with the company, and within 24 hours, she was out there, boom, biggest company, one of the biggest companies in the world, interviewing with them. She did a great job on the phone interview, and she was set up, I think, the very early the following week to go in and interview with the company. So if you have great tools, great strategies, you can get there so much faster than just working by yourself. And so the point that I'm making here is so many people try to just do it themselves. Oh, I'm going to do this myself. I can figure it out. I hear so many people say, I can figure it out. I'm going to do this myself. I know what I'm doing. Okay. Whereas people who are the smartest, getting the best results, they're going to say, you know what? I may know a little bit, and I feel like I'm pretty smart, but I know that I can't know everything. Right? You know, there's a lot of things I probably don't know, and I'm just going to be the first to admit it. You know, this is the mentality of more humble people. You know, there's probably stuff I do know, there's probably stuff I don't know. Right? So if you're going to be the guy to go it alone or the girl to go it alone, that's fine. But when you're going up against a candidate who has the cumulative combined mass amount of knowledge that we've absorbed from all these Fortune 100 hiring managers, directors, vice presidents on this side, if you're going up against, because there's always anywhere from 2, 3, 4, 5 people interviewing for a position at the very end. If you're going to a company and you're there, you may even see them. I remember when I was interviewing with a company many years ago, and I went in and there were two other people? I think it was 2 or 3 other people there in the lobby, and they brought us all up to the 8th floor. We went into the conference rooms, and I go, I wonder if these people are here interviewing for the same position or whether they're interviewing for different positions. And I go, well, I'm sure they'll tell me. And I asked one of the people, I go, are these other people interviewing for the same position? They go, yeah, that's what we're doing. And so if you go into an interview and you're going up against one of these people and they've gotten involved in some program like Career Accelerator, I don't think there's any out there that do this, but if you cannot compete with that mass amount of knowledge. If somebody went through a program, and these are the people that are practicing, rehearsing, they're getting the best strategies, they're investing time, money, and knowledge and insight, versus this person over here who's probably going to burn about anywhere from a minimum of 6 months to a year, maybe longer, 1.5 years, going through a career search. You know, don't let that be you. And I mean, if you go out and at least do another program or go and hire a coach locally, but get some help. Because if you go toe to toe with another person who Boeing, if you're interviewing with Boeing or Google, and you're going to be going up against 4 or 5 other people, 4 or 5 other candidates. You want to make sure that you're on this side of the equation and not the person, because you're just going to get destroyed over here. I mean that with all due respect. I don't want to see that happen to anybody, but if you're going up toe to toe with someone who has a cumulative knowledge of vast amounts of people, I mean, there's just no contest. And that's what happens to a lot of people. And if you're in with a great company right now, great. You're probably looking for a new opportunity to grow. We can help you do that. But if you're unemployed right now, or you're in between jobs and you're transitioning, you don't have the time to wait. If you go another 6 months without having a position, then you're going to spend more money than you would have on this program, and you're not going to have an income coming in if you don't invest in some type of knowledge. So the quickest way to do this, and I believe that. I've invested in a lot of different programs, personal trainers. I bought a lot of different programs online in terms of selling. I was involved in sales for many years, and I invested in lots of programs to teach me how to sell with customers. In terms of, it was in retail, and I didn't know how to sell. I'll be honest with you. I just didn't know how to do it. I didn't know how to speak with people that effectively. When I graduated college, I was very shy, and to go thrusted right into a retail sales position, I was pretty scared, and I still remember it. And I go, the only thing that is going to help me to go from, being scared to being really confident, over here, is training and knowledge. And I eventually learned it, and I invested in different programs that helped me to do that. Whether it was a book, or whether I spent $500 doing a video course online. I've done so many of them, and I said, you know what? If I just get one gold nugget out of this course and this program, it could change my whole life, and it did. And as I invested in more and more courses, my income went up. It went up. That's what happened. And that's true in a lot of different things. If you don't get help, people who don't end up getting help in life, they usually they don't read, they don't attend seminars, they don't attend conferences. It's kind of where they vacillate between. And if you connect with the right ones, your thing can just go off the chart. And that's the difference between ultimately successful people and not successful people, is the amount of knowledge that they have, the experience. And if you can learn from other people's experiences, that's a key indication too. But those are the ultimate differences, is the knowledge, strategies, and experiences. And so that is what we're committed to, is helping you to get the best strategies to close these interviews and get the offers and get back to work and enjoy what you're doing. And I wish you the best of luck. This is what our program's about. You can also scroll down the page. Most of these videos that we do, and there's a bunch of them for the strategy, interview mastery, and closing the deal. I usually do about 20-minute videos on each topic. Sometimes I'll go a little bit longer, especially if I get really excited about what I'm talking about, and we're talking about something that can really, really help a lot of people, which is basically all of the videos. But I can get rolling sometimes, and sometimes I just need to shut up. But one thing I will say is that closing the deal and interview mastery are by far the most important technologies I think that we've built to date. I think it will definitely get you to the next level in your career and get you that new position that you want to get, whether you're an accountant, whether you're a vice president, whether you're a director, or whether you're a CEO at a company and you're just not that effective with interviewing right now. We're here to help you. You can call the number above if you have questions. We'd love to answer any questions that you have. And we're here to hear about too where you're at in your career search. Sometimes I'll pick up the phone and I'll talk to people and I'll say, so tell me where you're at. What's going on with you? Where are you at? What's your sticking points? What kind of success have you had? I just love to connect with people and hear where people are at in their job search. And I love to help people. I really do. If you're out there right now and you're struggling, we want to help you because I know how that is. And I did not have the most success early on in my career with career searches. Right out of college, I had no idea what I was doing. And slowly but surely, and we got to this level. I committed to helping people to never have to go through that, not knowing what to do during an interview and just getting pummeled. It's not a good feeling. And if you're there, we're here to help you. But I will say, to wrap up, do not go through, no matter if you do this program, great. If you don't, that's fine too. But get help no matter what you do. Because if you don't get help, nothing will change for you. You have to get help in this area. You have to increase your knowledge, change your approach if you're not getting the result that you want. And the shortest amount of time to get the result that you want is to connect with people who are getting the results already, and we are doing that. Again, you can look at the people and the places that they've landed positions from working with our company below, and you just have to start modeling what does work and connecting with the strategies that do work. And if you do that, your life is going to become a lot easier. So that's why we invented Hired&Co. This is what the Career Accelerator is all about. If you're not going to spend any money on training and knowledge, you're just going to end up going like this. You're going to be going back and forth. I'm going to try what this works. Will this work? No, that didn't work. Let me go over here. I want to try that. Well, that didn't work either. And I'm going to go over here. Well, is this going to work? This? Oh, and I think it worked. Oh, well, it kind of worked. And then burnout sets in over here. And that's some of the candidates that we get calling at some point. There's a certain percentage of them that we'll work with. And they're just like, I've gone 6 months, I've gone a year, I don't know what I'm doing, I try to do this myself. That is one of the common denominators to failure in a career search, is trying to do everything yourself. And that's why, a lot of people at companies, it's so important today, just the power of delegation. People who want to do too much, whether it's because they want to be rewarded or they want to be perceived as, being seen as, uber resourceful, or they think they believe in being self-reliant. This is what happens to so many people who we see. They just end up in this box, bouncing off the walls. This is the career search of so many people out there. And I share this not to poke fun or point fun or anything like that. I share this so people out there can have a self-awareness, not to get caught up in this box spinning their wheels. Because too many people out there do. And I don't want to see people doing that. Because you waste so much time when you could be spending time with your kids. You could be spending time cooking a great meal with your wife, or you could be spending some great time cooking a meal with your husband, or playing with your kids, volunteering at Ronald McDonald House, or something so much more valuable than just spinning your wheels and getting burnt out because you don't want to get some training and get some knowledge. So get the help that you need. And that's what I would say. And we go through a lot of the questions that they will ask you in your interview. Typically, we'll go through about the 20 different most commonly asked questions in the interviews. We know if you're going into a particular interview too, and you're saying, hey, I want to get this masterminded right now, call up our office too and say, hey, I'm going into this interview with this company. How can you guys help me? And we have a lot of profiles and a lot of the questions that a lot of these companies ask, and we would be happy to help you get ready for your interview. So that's a program that we have on the side that we don't advertise on the site. But if you're going into a particular interview with, say, Amazon, we'll help you get prepared. Just call up right now, the number's above, say, how can you guys help me? The last thing I just want to finish with is, and this is kind of a two-part thing, and I've lost track in terms of what we're on, what number. But you really need to know your interviewers when you go in. Know who you're going to be speaking with. This is kind of just a one-on-one on interviewing. Some people just walk in and, I forgot that person's name. Have it written down when you go in with you. Know all three of them or all four of them. And take it step by step when you go into these interviews, okay? Because a lot of people will sit there, and I've heard recently somebody called me up and they go, I forgot to say my name when I reached out and shook his hand. And he just said his name back to me, and I was so occupied with what I was thinking, I didn't even say my name. And he goes, I think that created a not so good impression with that hiring manager when I went into that company. I'm not going to say the company. But he was so occupied in his mind with what was happening in, his environment and the people walking in the door and, getting the questions in his mind. And I go, you're trying to do too much, And when you go into an interview, just take things step by step. Don't think. Just allow yourself not to think. And just offer your name. Hi, Steve Cullen, Hired&Co. Give a good, nice handshake, smile. And then just go step by step. Just a little bit at a time, a little bit at a time. And if you do that, know your interviews and go step by step. These are kind of just some of the foundational things. And we go into a lot of strategies. We'll tell you how to answer the questions. But these are some of the things. Just take a little by a little. If you're trying to perceive, all the questions that are going to be coming at you, and you're sitting in the chair and you're getting all cerebral, you're not going to come across as somebody warm, friendly, easy to work with, who's gentle, free-flowing, person who's creative, has great ideas. You're not going to be creative in the interview if you're all cerebral, thinking about every little step of the thing when you're sitting in there. So go step by step, and I'll even write that, don't be too cerebral. A lot of people get in there and they're in the hot box and they're then they're trying to perceive everything that's going to come at them, and you really just got to just don't think for a few minutes. Allow just yourself to settle in. I think one of the beautiful things is now that a lot of companies have gotten so smooth with these hiring processes at Fortune 500 companies. They'll let you come in and they'll let you sit down for probably 10 to 15 minutes and just get used to the environment. I'm so glad that so many companies do it. I think I'm so grateful for it, because instead of jumping into something right away and let's go and get things off to a real fast start, I like to see the candidates, able to just kind of settle into their environment, get used to it, calm down a little bit, and go from there. But you don't want to overthink things when you're in there. The way to alleviate this is preparation. And notes. And so I can't go into all of this, all of the tips and strategies. Some of this is just kind of initial things that I talk about here in this introductory video. But when you get into the Accelerator program, we just go into full-on strategies that are just going to put so many tools in your belts. When you go in there, you're just going to feel like you've got so much firepower. You're going to be super confident. And that's what I want you to be. I want you to be super confident. I want you to feel in control. I want you to have peace of mind. And through adequate preparation, this is how you're going to feel going into the interview using the Career Accelerator System program, the program that we've put together for you. So you can sign up right now. We've opened up the program now. We're no longer doing the applications. You can sign up right now below, submit your application, you'll do the payment, and then we'll have your dedicated, one of our dedicated team members call you. That'll be the person that you correspond with at our company. We'll get you onboarded. You'll get access to all of the videos, all of our strategies. I would encourage you not to share these with people. Maybe else it's your family member who's trying to find a job, because the more people who have this amazing knowledge, the more that we're going to have to go back and to the drawing board and come up with new material. But again, I've designed this so that this doesn't go out to the mass population, but that great people who are totally committed to getting the career that they deserve and want to invest in getting the knowledge to do it are able to. So I wish you a great amount of luck on your career search. I think some of the elements in here that I've just talked about, investing in knowledge, this is something you're gonna have to do throughout your career. If you want to go up to an executive level one day, You're going to have to get coaching and get knowledge, because we're not born with knowledge. You don't come out of college with all this experience. In fact, most people come out of college with zero experience. And so you've got to invest in knowledge, get insight, get wisdom. And that'll allow you throughout your career to scale even faster into those higher positions. And that's the common denominator with any vice president, executive, CEO, is they've got a lot of experience, they've got a lot of knowledge, they've gotten a lot of feedback, they've gotten a lot of insight through connecting with great resources. So I hope that this has been informative for you today. You can sign up, you can call us, you can chat with our team below if you want to chat and you have some additional questions. And I wish you a great amount of luck in your career search, and we look forward to working with you.